Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, the learned speakers. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all today evening on this international webinar hosted by NISSMAT. As you are aware, the subject of webinar today is very relevant in the prevailing context. Because of epidemic or pandemic, most of us are at a distance from each other. And hence, the subject assumes much more importance than it would have been in normal circumstances. First of all, as a president of NISSMAT, after having welcomed you, I would like to say a few lines about NISSMAT. The institution, National Security, Safety, and Applied Technology, Management and Applied Technology, was established in 1990, about 3 decades back. It has the legacy of conducting training courses in the field of security, safety, applied technology in the initial stages. And because of the methodology, as well as the curriculum, well-defined curriculum, and very well way of adopting a methodology, it gained prominence in no time. Then we moved on to specialization in imparting training on the subjects of loss prevention, risk mitigation, and then safety and security audits. The teams which were trained by us have conducted audit of a number of multinational and international companies and have achieved laurels for their excellent audit. After that, we also went into distance training and also for ex-Army retired personnel second career training. We decided some time back to establish a research cell and a think tank in our institution so as to give importance to various subjects in various spectrums and various fields which have global importance. And in that context, we aspire to become a well-renowned global institute with the passage of time. The uniqueness of NISSMAT lies in the fact that we have got on our visiting faculty as well as on roll very, very highly qualified, specialized, and experienced erudite scholars. With these words, I'll now like to say a few lines on the subject of today. As you know, online examination has got, it does away with the traditional method of pen and paper. They say paper as such was a copious waste and was also detrimental to the environment. Then they say that online evaluation gives you a lot of changes which you can make online without any glitches, without any problems. They also say that it reduces the time of giving results. You can immediately evaluate and give the results there and there. It saves time, reduces the risk of examination cheating, and computer-based tests provide more flexibility to the assessors also. Then an instant test evaluation, as I told you, is always looked up to because people wait for their results, etc., and you get an instant test. So, but not number of advantages they list. There are indeed some disadvantages also. Disadvantages mean we have to look at, and our erudite scholar will tell us how they have been able to overcome these disadvantages. We often feel that the problem of cheating and technical glitches can come up, some technical glitch. Cheating is, they say, because we have like an open book. Open book examination obviously means that they can refer to any material and then they can give answers. Now, how to overcome that, the scholars will tell us. Unlike a traditional exam setting, we have here another problem that in our country, because of infrastructure problem, there will be poor internet connectivity, there can be power shortages, and with the result that you may not be able to have people from villages and long distances on this. There always something or some technical glitch going on till we come to a internet which is available everyone, everywhere, and you have to teach them at distance. Another very important fact which people talk about the disadvantages is that it cannot accommodate online examination probably. They say it cannot accommodate all exams, all modes of examination. Mostly, it is restricted to multiple choice questioning, or it can be, at the most, you can change some question, etc. That is a different thing. But how about the forms of debates, which you sometimes like to have with the students? What about the essays in the case studies which you want to have? What about the oral examination? What about the viva? What about the interviews you want to have? So certain mode of examination with the people feel it may not be possible online. These are some of the people think. But the question is a question of going into anatomy as the subject indicates. Now, internal structuring of a body, which is often referred to as anatomy of the body, is better known to these doctors who have come to us today. Because as far as we are concerned, we are seeing as such, but internal, what is anatomy? What is the microscopic and microscopic working, macro and microscopic working, they can tell. At the same time, the contours of the anatomy, as well as various illness which may come in. These all are subject to deliberation discussion. I'm sure that these doctors will make us wise and understand about all these contours. I'd like to say a few words about my chairman cum managing director, Mr. Pawan Ahluwalia. Mr. Pawan Ahluwalia retired from Army, and he is an action-oriented MD. He believes in action, action, action. He doesn't believe in the safety of going into recluse. All the time he's working on action, action, action program. He doesn't believe that just to go to recluse. And he is a body of Kotalia Award, Malcolm Award, under the CIA, sponsored by CIA. He is also a body of a number of awards from Association of Private Detectives of India and Centralization Private Security Industry. I will now request Mr. Pawan Ahluwalia to moderate the session and introduce the speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President, sir. Thank you for the introduction. I would just take a minute to sort of thank the participants from various countries. We have participants today coming in from 17 countries, and we are touching 700 registrations as I speak. The countries that are attending today are from India, Singapore, the United States, United Kingdom, Nigeria, Egypt, Kenya, UAE, Australia, Congo, France, Ireland, Kuwait, Netherlands, Saudi Arabia, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. Thank you very much for taking time off and attending this important webinar. I'd also take 2 minutes to introduce our illustrious president. Mr. Sipal Singh is a former Inspector General of Police and has been the state chief for the Indian state of Punjab. He also raised the Rapid Action Force for the Government of India, which was raised to deal with communal rights, and he became its first chief. He raised and headed the Internal Security Academy at Mount Abu in Rajasthan in India, to train senior administrators, police officers, and senior officials of the public and private sector undertakings on internal security, law and order. During his police career, he has achieved laurels for his excellence and outstanding performance. I don't think there's any police medal that he has not been honored with during his career. After he left the army, after he left the police service and in the private sector, he has been a great achiever. In the year 2009, the President of India recognized his services as the Security Personality of the Year. In 2011, the Home Minister of the Union of India recognized his services, and in a function that he at the Home Minister's office, he was honored. In 2012, he was recognized by the Governor of Punjab for his excellence in service. And in 2018, APSA awarded him with the Lifetime Achievement Award. He is the driving force for several organizations where his friends serve. He is also the Honorary Director General for the Central Association of Private Security Industry and the Association of Private Detectives of India. He is also the President of an organization called Children of the World. He is a well-known face in the country, appears frequently on TV channels. His views are very well received on international security and law and order. His press briefings and interviews are always a hit in the Indian audience. This was our president, and now I take a minute to sort of introduce our first speaker of the day, Mr. Graham Hudson. Graham is a long-standing member of the educational assessment community, having worked for over 35 years. He has been involved with many of the significant developments in general qualifications in the United Kingdom, including the introduction of the GCSE Curriculum 2000 and the National Curriculum at Key Stage 4. Whilst working at the Quality Curriculum Authority, which is now called Ofqual, he was responsible for the marking and collecting the data for the key stage tests. And after his move to the DRS Data Services Limited, was responsible for the first implementation of the live marking of UK examinations using scanned scripts. Major awarding bodies in the UK and internationally now use this present system. Graham's interest in the e-assessment started whilst at the QCA, where he led a development change program involving all regulatory bodies in the United Kingdom, looking at the uses of new technology in assessments. He won several £1 million funding from the Treasury. Latterly, Graham has owned a franchise helping businesses to be successful at selling their products and services, and now runs his own consultancy business supporting organizations in the assessments sector. Graham's position is to harness technology of all kinds to improve the examination experience that candidates face, the reliability of the assessments, and the marking accuracy. Graham is happy to have been contacted by NISSMAT to speak. He has key interest in the implementation and development programs in the e-assessment sector. He is known to get the best results from teams and is a strategic planner and a business developer. He has vast experience of working in Zimbabwe with the Zimbabwe education system, where he was responsible to get the marking system of the e-examinations into order. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Graham Hudson.
Well, thank you very much, Pawan, for your introduction. And I'm delighted to be with you as speaker at the NISSMAT Anatomy of Examinations and Assessments. I'm going to give you a short presentation now, which is really a canter through the background and some of the history to online exams and assessment. And I'm trusting you can see my screen now.
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much. So I want to cover for you a number of things. I want to talk about the origins of online marking, some of the early uses of it, how we might frame it in terms of enhancements that it brings to assessment, a little bit about some of the contexts in which we operate now, and some of the assessment types that people are using globally. And I'll finish off with a little bit of practical stuff on how exams might get delivered, and if you're in the market for looking for suppliers, how you might go about that. So 1916 was the first recorded instance of multiple choice questions being used, and they were developed by a gentleman called Frederick Kelly, who wanted to improve the way in which his students were assessed on silent reading. He recognized that age-old problem of marking consistency and devised this approach, which he called a quiz, actually, to assessing students. And this is a replica of the instructions that were first given to users of this quiz. And you can see here the origins of the multiple choice question as we know it. That blue area is effectively the stem of the question. Below are given the names of 4 animals. Draw a line around the name of each animal that is useful on the farm. And underneath that pink area is the distractors: cow, tiger, rat, and wolf. Strangely enough, if you didn't draw a ring around those answers, you didn't get any marks, which to me sounds a bit harsh, but was the rules then. So that's the first recorded instance of this type of question. Then what came next? How were these automated? In 1937, a guy called Reynold Johnson filed a patent for scoring apparatus, and this used an electrical means of judging whether lozenges, as you may be familiar on optical mark sheets, had been marked. And that formed the basis of the first automated scoring machine. And then a guy called Everett Lindquist filed a patent in 1955 for the sorts of machines that are probably more familiar to you now, optical mark readers. And that was effectively the introduction of the ability to mark these tests at a large scale. Now, as Pawan mentioned at the beginning, I worked at one stage in my life with a company called DRS Data Services Limited, which was started in 1969 and started by doing market surveys using optical mark reading equipment. And this is a picture of the first optical mark reading machine that DRS used. For the technical people, it's a Westinghouse 640 machine. And this throughput paper at the frightening speed of 650 sheets a minute, that was reading both sides of the piece of paper. I find that frightening because at DRS, we never after that produced a machine that went so fast. And as I understand it, although I was around in 1969, but not in DRS, it was a bit like driving a steam engine, and you had to be careful that the pieces of paper didn't catch fire when they went through the machine. So you can see here early introduction of technology in the marking of exams. And then latterly, in the 90s, 80s, 90s, up to 2000, became computer-based assessments. And the first general example of this was in the assessment of modern foreign languages, as it formed a really useful tool for doing that. Now, Pawan mentioned that I did work for a period for the United Kingdom government and marked assessments at that point. And I wanted just to say a little bit about this as an illustration, if you like, of implementing technology at a large scale. So in the 1990s and 2000s, the UK government mandated that all pupils aged 11 and 14 had to take tests in English, maths and science. And for a period, I was responsible for the marking of that. And there's some numbers there. Now, I mean, I guess in terms of India, these are a pretty small beer. They're probably state numbers rather than national numbers, but for us are quite big. So about 10 million pupil scripts were marked manually every year, and 1.2 million took these tests in English, maths and science. And I moved the scripts around the country by our national carrier parcel force, and in 14 days we moved about 80,000 parcels and recruited 11,000 markers who marked this manually on paper and recorded the results on four-part NCR forms. And we recorded the data by keying about 50 million keystrokes. And that was really before the internet or anything of that sort got going and data was transferred on floppy disks, if any of you remember what floppy disks are. And I felt that this wasn't the best way of doing things, as you can imagine. And I was plagued with issues of marking quality, where schools said that the results that they had weren't what they expected. And the variation that I got across those 11,000 markers, I thought we could probably do better. So as Pawan mentioned, I submitted a funding request to the government and was awarded £3.5 million to explore and research the use of technologies in assessment. And this involved all nations in the UK, England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. And we piloted this process of scanning scripts and marking them on screen. And I was pretty convinced that this way gave us a better mechanism, because once you had digitized the scripts, you then had many more degrees of freedom to operate and control the marking process and to control the marking quality. Now, at the time, the government and the Department for Education and Science didn't want to implement this. It may not have been the right time. They may have been reasonably risk averse or whatever the reasons. And I got an offer from the company mentioned before, DRS Data Services, to go and develop a system for them, which I did. And in 2004, our first major client, the Assessment and Qualifications Alliance, scanned and marked 400,000 GCSE scripts and marked them on screen. We developed that system in less than a year. And as Pawan mentioned, most GCSE boards in the UK use this, and some institutions internationally. And of course, this removed mark sheets. There were no paper mark sheets, no scripts were sent around the country. We didn't have to key data. Quality control was transformed and enabled me to actually manage the outcome much more better. And now it's commonplace. So I gave that to you for two reasons. One, because it can show you that large scale change can be made if you have the mind to do about it. And it also shows that it takes a certain amount of risk. And in this case, it was my company that invested millions of pounds in this with no certainty of clients, but did so because they believed that this was the right way to go. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about a framework that you might want to consider and set the context of online assessments in. So I visited Washington last year and attended a conference called Beyond Multiple Choice and heard a talk by this gentleman, Dale Cornelius from the Maryland State Department of Education. And he put forward 5 criteria that you may want to use to judge the use of online assessments. So first is authenticity, related to how you teach in an authentic way and test those skills of content and critical thinking. Accessibility, that you want all students who are participating to be included, including those with disabilities. Reliability, that point that I made earlier on about getting consistent marking and access to assessments and a measurable and consistent outcome. Utility, meaning that the product and service that you provide is accessible to students, teachers, parents, and administrators and delivered in a timely fashion. And engaging, because if you want people to engage and use their critical thinking, it has to be set in a medium that engages them. So I find that quite a useful framework, and you might like to just sort of note that down or think about that when you're considering how online assessments fit into your environment. I'd like to talk now about the context in which we set this, and I've chosen 2 as my examples. One I call settings. So in what place and context do we put online assessments? One, of course, is familiar to many, the educational context, school, further education and higher education, content and curriculum driven. Then there's apprenticeships or skills-based assessment that online assessments can be used in. Work-based learning for those organizations that want to develop their employees or help them to gain new skills that are work-related. In the credentialing market, those professional and chartered organizations that offer professional exams, that's certainly becoming more prevalent in the UK and I know in the US. What I call critical competency roles, I put there airline pilots and medical students would fall into that category. Personally, I don't really think I want a pilot to practice flying a plane with me in it unless he's absolutely competent. And likewise, nor do I want my dentist who's doing the root canal treatment to drill in the wrong place. So these are critical competency roles. And lastly, I've just cited MOOCs, this whole world in which people operate virtually. How do we actually assess their development and competency there? And the second example, I've said, what's the nature of the assessments that we are assessing? And here are some examples. As I said early on, language testing was an early field that online assessments were actually developed and implemented. The area of curriculum, knowledge, application and understanding, which sits within that school FE and HE sector. Something that interests me about personality and personality types, that can be all assessed using online measures, hitherto paper, but now in a much more simplified and easy way for users to access. Behaviors and competencies, both in recruitment of people into roles and also development people when they're in roles for work and other voluntary activities, and then the psychometrics that go around that. How do we actually get that information? How can it be assembled in a useful manner? And finally, what we call in the trade formative and summative assessment, the assessments to help develop pupils as they're learning, and then the summative just to establish what progress that they've made. And then if we look at what paper-based tests have actually done and achieved, here's just some examples of what they look like. So all these types of items or interactions are available. Objective testing, short answer questions, stimulus, oral listening and reading has all been achieved in that context. But the point about that is that it has some limitations. Paper-based testing is what I call one-dimensional. It is really good at testing knowledge, understanding and application, but has constraints such as scale, constraints in the way that it's marked, and also my bugbear constraints in the consistency of marking. Now, I'd like to just give to you two short models that you might like to think about in this context of online marking. And I'm grateful to a friend of mine at City and Guilds, Patrick Craven, for what he calls the triangle of inexactness. And if you look at that triangle, you can see reliability and validity on one of the sides. And those are well known, I think, for assessment professionals. But the other aspect is viability. And that's largely what we start thinking about when we put in place large-scale online assessments. How viable is it and how well can we do it? And I think when you're thinking about your own environment and where your online assessments fit, it's a useful model to use, this reliability, validity, and viability. Because validity is that more ephemeral type of assessment, which is harder, and viability is the practicalities of putting it in place. And I think you find your assessments would fit somewhere in the middle of that triangle. It may not be exactly in the middle, but it's going to find a place that is suitable for you. And I think those three areas are ones that are a good measure and touchstone to be using when you're considering your own online assessments. And the other chart, which I rather like and I think is rather clever, looks at what we call convergent and divergent assessments. Convergent being that well-known area for online assessments and multiple choice, hotspots, drag and drop, interactive items, things of that sort, which can be relatively easily automated. And then on that right-hand side, increasing complexity and different assessment types where the human marker gets more involved. And you can see what that says there: technical, factual essays, creative essays, professional performance, all come down that right-hand side of the chart. And I think that it's our goal with online assessments to move those assessments reliably, fairly, validly, and in a utility way further down that right-hand side. And I think it would be of interest if in 10 years' time we were hosting a similar seminar to see how far down that right-hand side of the chart we've managed to get with our assessments. And here's just some simple examples of the types of assessments that are used on online tools now. Simple multiple choice, some more complex interactions. The one that is really interesting in a number of environments is adaptive testing, where the difficulty of the items adjusts depending on the answers that candidates given, and are driven by algorithms to do that. Comparative judgment, where one thing is compared against another and judgments made. The introduction of gamification into assessment. I was looking recently at some work that ACT had done in the States on how to assess collaborative skills through using gamification, using augmented reality and virtual reality as other tools. And here are just one or two examples of different types of interactions. That from Tau testing, some very basic, straightforward type things. This is an example from the conference that I went to in the States of a tool that uses diagnostic and formative oral reading for grade 1 to 5 students, funded through the US Department of Education, all research and evidence-based. The benefits being a more engaging tool, less stress for the students, no teacher time having to do it, and giving results immediately available to the student. And you can see that little chap there, he looks quite happy, doesn't he? He's obviously quite enjoying himself. Then simulations, as I talked about, in terms of aircraft and doctors. This is another gamification from Breakaway Games that sets medical practice in that context. And interestingly enough, the correlation between skills shown through this type of assessment is very close to that in practice. And just to wind up, a couple of things about delivery of these assessments. One area of delivery I'd typify as being determined by geography and where good technology exists. So in some places you might deliver it centrally over the internet. In other places you might want to deliver it through a local area network, a bit as the chairman was alluding to in his opening remarks about the difficulties of connectivity. And sometimes you might want to use specialist devices. And then another form of delivery might be through, for example, test centers where all students go to take the test, live invigilation with the student being remotely invigilated, but by an invigilator who watches the exam all the time, or sometimes in the same context, their exam performance being recorded and reviewed subsequently. And the last type of delivery is an example here of a paper device developed by TCSI, and I'm sure many of you will be familiar with their work globally and in India. And this device is a secure delivery of question papers. It can be used as an answering device or just to give the questions for students then to answer on written papers. It's secure, it doesn't require Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. It's a proprietary communication system between each of the tablets and provides a very good mechanism for delivering tests in places where there is no infrastructure. And then lastly, if you're considering looking for online suppliers in your own context, I just thought I'd talk to you briefly about the sort of 8 steps that I use when I help and advise people in this context. I'm not going to go through each of those at all, but there are 2 points that I think I'd want to make from this, that when you're considering doing this, be clear about the what of what you want. In other words, think about the outcomes that you want and get that absolutely as clear as you can. And then engage in a dialogue with suppliers in a meaningful way that enables them to determine what your real needs are and let them as the experts determine the how. Oftentimes I found people try to determine the how before they've worked out the what, and then that tends to end up in trouble and disappointment for everybody involved. So I hope you found that an interesting, rather quick canter through an overview of online assessments, a little bit about the history, a little bit about what happens now, a little bit of a look into the future. And obviously, I'll be very happy to pick up questions with you subsequently. And if anybody wants to contact me, then there are my details, or I'm sure you can do through NISSMAT and PAWAN. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Graham. An excellent talk, and I think an excellent overview of the entire ESS marketplace. Our next speaker is the Vice Chancellor of MIT University, Lieutenant General V.K. Sharma. Lieutenant General V.K. Sharma studied at the King George's School in Chail in Himachal Pradesh. He later joined the National Defense Academy at Khadakwasla in 1968 and became a young second lieutenant from the Indian Military Academy in 1972. He was commissioned in the Corps of Signals in the Indian Army. He served the army for about 40 years and held very important positions in all parts of India, but largely in Kashmir, while moving up through the ranks of captain to general. In addition to being a professional military leader, he has been an excellent academician. He did his Bachelor's of Engineering in Electronics and Communication Engineering from the Military College of Technical Technology. He did his Master's of Engineering from Pune University. He did Master's in Management Studies from Osmania University. He was an instructor in the Institute of Armament and Technology for the Indian Army. He has been a person with exceptionally high intellect, and I can vouch for that because I studied with him. He retired after 40 years of distinguished service as the Commandant of the Military College of Telecommunication and Engineering at MAU, which is a center of excellence in electronic communications, information technology, and cyber warfare. He was for 4 years the Colonel Commandant of the Corps of Signals. He is the founder Vice Chancellor of MIT University at Gwalior in India since 2011. Under his leadership, the university has had exponential growth, and in 2014 was adjudged the best private university in the state of Madhya Pradesh in India. The university has been recognized for excellence by nearly all the rating organizations, and he has experienced and implemented out the online examinations very successfully in his university. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you General V.K. Sharma.
Thank you very much, Pavanjit, for having introduced me. And after a presentation by Graham Hudson on the overview about what online examination is all about and about the assessments, I think he has given a complete overview about the systems which are prevalent, how we can go about it. I'll be discussing the specifics with regard to the system which we adopted at MIT University, Madhya Pradesh, Gwalior. I would like to mention that MIT is one of the biggest education groups of India, which has a presence in 12 countries abroad, which include United States of America, UK, Australia, Singapore, and a number of other countries. And India, we have 11 universities, about 50 global business schools, and same number of MIT international schools. We have about 150,000 students and a number of faculty members and staff in the group. So it's a large group, but each university has its own standing. It has its own statutes and ordinances and is governed by its own rules and regulations. We do interact with each other and derive the benefits of joint learning and by collaboration. So now I would be sharing my screen. Pavanjit, can you confirm whether you can see my screen?
Not as yet.
Just 1 minute.
Amir, is the screen sharing on?
Just 1 minute.
VK, would you like
Just-
to take it next? I can take Jasjeet on and you can set it up.
No, just 1 minute. Just 1 minute. Give me half a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, can you see it now?
No, we can't.
Okay.
You have a screen, but we can see only your Outlook.
Just 1 minute. Your screen says your screen sharing is paused. Why? Resume share. Yeah, can you see it now?
We can see your screen, but not the presentation.
Your screen sharing.
VK, what I'll do is just set your thing up. I can move on to Jasjeet and I'll come back to you after Jasjeet finishes then.
Just 1 minute.
Yeah, now it's come.
It's come now? Okay, thank you. So I'll be talking about anatomy of online examination. Sorry for the delay which happened. And so primarily online exams are of two types. One is that the students come to a designated center. And like in India, we have National Testing Agency, which is responsible for conducting the tests, and the students are asked to come to a centrally earmarked exam center. Our own university is a center for such exams. And now in that case, there are not many issues will get resolved. The first issue is about identification of the students. Who is the student who is appearing for the exam? So that issue gets totally resolved because you check the gate pass, you check the passes which are issued by the student, and they are well authenticated. Invigilation is possible because there are web cameras and there are invigilators who are there. Hardware, software, network problems are resolved totally. because a standard network is assured and a standby network is also kept by the exam center. So there cannot be any issue, and additional computer systems are available there in case something happens to the system. Help is available, so those issues get resolved. And of course, chances of unfair means are minimal because everything is resolved there. And this system has been very successful. There have been no complaints or issues on this. And even the very prestigious examinations have been conducted on this system, like the NEET system or the JEE mains, and so many exams which are conducted by the government when the students are asked to come to a center. So that is not an issue. The issue is when the students are asked to appear for online examinations from home. So then the main problem is authenticity. And of course, the students can get away by blaming the hardware, software, network, power issues. One can't help it. And invigilation is very difficult because students are sitting at home, and not only at home in one location, throughout the country or sometimes throughout the world. Very difficult to do the invigilation, and there are very high chances of use of unfair means. So those are the issues when students are asked to appear for online examination from home. Now, authenticity concern, we can partially overcome by using the face or iris scanning softwares which are available. Cameras, they can be asked to keep the cameras on continuously, and use of softwares like Team Viewer and any desk, by which the central monitoring agency can monitor can capture of one or a few students, their screens, and can see what the student is doing, whether he is using any other browser, etc. So that is all possible theoretically. And of course, class coordinators who recognize the students should be there to view the students at random, whether the student himself is appearing or some third party or somebody else on behalf of the student is appearing, because that's quite possible. And the methods which students typically use for cheating are screen sharing to another computer, while they can give their screen to somebody else, and that fellow can write the answers while they are sitting comfortably in their homes. Their screen gets captured. Keeping notes on smartphones and using mobile applications, very much on the cards. Using of advanced technology like micro Bluetooth powered earbuds, smartwatches, augmented reality glasses, all these technology beats technology. So the students are using these things also. And of course, fake identity to get third-party assistance, which is very common. So with these kind of problems being faced by tests which are being done from home, now let us see how best these can be resolved and how we can minimize the instances of cheating, which we try to do. One is we limit and restrict the access to the question papers, online proctoring by nominated faculty by sharing the screens. So the faculty members, they ask the students, they get the rights to capture their screens. So randomly it is checked whether the student is doing the paper correctly or cheating. Locking the student's device. Some of the browsers which the student uses can be locked, and so that he cannot go to another browser and use it to get answers from Google or from some other source. We use encrypted emails with verification, and restrict forwarding and downloading of question papers. You can download only once and save it. You cannot be downloading it again and again. So number of times the question paper has been downloaded gets seen. We reduce the document viewing area with screenshots and watermark filters to discourage screenshots, so that the screenshots are not captured and passed on elsewhere. And identify suspicious third-party assistance using tracking logs that reveal the location and IP address of the user. All these things can be done, but when the number of students are large, say in thousands, who are appearing simultaneously and also at different locations with a few faculty members, maybe about 50 odd, who are trying to invigilate upon them, all these things become difficult, and still some students get away by resorting to unfair means. Now, I'll come to specifically the methodology which was used by our university for conducting the online examinations for the students. We have got our own proprietary application called Amazon, which in fact stands for Amity Intranet Zone. Now, this is a very powerful application because it provides a number of facilities like course configuration, the details, syllabus, credits for each course, lesson plans, attendance details, and everything, and even the marking, marks uploading, examination forms filling, result compilation and display. Everything is online, and it is totally a paperless system. There is no paper at all which is used here. The question papers are uploaded. They are marked there on the system itself. The marks get captured from there by the system, and there is a graded. Each student, faculty, and staff has a unique ID, and access is granted as per the status or appointment of the individual. That means the status as per the appointment, the student will be able to only download. He cannot upload anything. He can only view, or he can only upload the answer sheet. But whereas a teacher can also get the question paper, he can mark it and he can upload it. He can do nothing more than that. But whereas a higher level, the controller of the examination can do more things. And so like that is a graded access which is provided. And the application can also be used from any device, including mobile phone also. So the students, in case anything goes wrong with the computer, they can attempt the question from the mobile also. And exams are conducted by configuring creating URL for two types of question papers that we use: multiple choice questions and open book exams. And of course, it was the choice of the teachers. Either they can give a multiple choice question or open book exams, and the teachers were trained how to give a multiple choice question and how to prepare a open book exams. Obviously, the open book exam questions cannot be so simple that the answers can be found straight away on Google or by any of the applications which are there. They are more imaginative, more thoughtfully done, and training is required, as was brought out with the previous speaker on this issue. And question papers open at a given date and time, and there is a limited access which is given. With that, the multiple choice question papers, we had 50 questions, which included complicated questions like having diagrams and formula also. And the duration of the examination was 1 hour, which is just sufficient to be able to attempt all questions. So additional time, if the student is trying to search somewhere else or trying to adopt to unfair means, then he is doing it at the cost of the limited time which he has got. So therefore, he is either loses on time there, or he attempts the question papers the way they are supposed to be. Now, the multiple choice question paper is visible during given specified time only. It is not that it is visible throughout. And in case of any technical problem, the time limit can be extended by the controller of examination on case-to-case basis. Right. Now, the key for the MCQ is loaded already, preloaded on Amazon Ab initio, and on answering, the marks get generated automatically on Amazon. But those are not visible to the student at that point of time. So the marking becomes very simple in this case. And the questions and any options therein are tweaked and appear randomly for students. Like one student will get question number 1, the next student will get question number 20, somebody will get question number 37, somebody will get question number 41, somebody will get question number 13. So at that time, at a point of time, students will have different questions. It is very difficult to find out what the other student has got and try and get the answer from them. Now, as far as open book exam is concerned, the papers are uploaded as a PDF and just sufficient time allocated for answering the questions after downloading the question paper. So in case of an open book exam, the students download the question paper, write the answers on paper, and when the time is complete, they are given additional 20 minutes to upload the question papers, or they can either email or upload it on Amazon itself. And if they are emailed, then also the person to whom it has been emailed has to upload them only. And the email addresses are of the faculty members who are the invigilators or the controller of examination. Or they can scan. If they have got no time to scan, they can take pictures, and then even pictures can be uploaded. Now, the formulation of open book exam question papers is analytical, so that the student is not able to use any softwares to find immediate exact answers by search engines, which I have already elaborated. And during open book exams, internet interruption causes minimum disturbance, because while you are writing the answer, even if the internet goes off, doesn't matter. You require internet only at the time of uploading, right? So answer papers downloaded and marked by assigned faculty on the system itself. Now the faculty need not to take a printout of that. They are supposed to mark it on system itself, assign the marks, and which get uploaded automatically on Amazon. Now we also formed, since this was being done for the first time, we formed something called Student Support and Wellbeing Team. For each test, a student support and well-being team was formed in respect of every institution. Like we have 12 institutions, so every institution formed a student support and well-being team. And online teams were established to answer various queries from the students, and students could contact them either through Amazon or through mobile or through email or through telephone, and they could seek assistance. So that provided a lot of flexibility and confidence to the students that they could get somebody in case there's a problem, they are not able to resolve it or technically. So they can call someone, they can speak to someone, they can send an email, and the responses, they were very attentive, and the responses were given immediately. Now for assessment, the procedure we have following is 30-70, about 30% of weightage given for internal assessment and 70% for end semester examination. And we have got a relative marking system and an absolute marking system.
We get 2 minutes more, please.
Right. These are converted into grades, and grading is done on a raw score awarded by the evaluator and minimum cutoff for various grades assessed as given. Now, in case of less than 30 students, we follow the absolute grading system, that means whatever grade has been obtained. And in case of more than 30 students, we follow the relative grading system by applying statistical quartile method and histogram. So that's the system that we are following. We have just, and what we did was to instill confidence in the students. We conducted a mock test first. Every student was given a mock test, and when she was confident of how it will be done, then only they were asked to go for the final test. So that is how the tests were conducted, which were fairly successfully conducted. And by and large, the students were satisfied. The marking was okay. Some glitches which we found, which we will definitely improve. And no assessment system can be perfect as it is. So therefore, there's much more which can be done to improve systems. And especially in India, where internet continuous availability is a problem, power failures are an issue, and the devices fail to function, they crash, all these things can happen, and they do happen. So we had to be very sensitive towards those issues. And that is how we went about. So thank you very much. So we will try and answer questions after everyone is finished.
Thank you, General Sharma. What an excellent talk. And I congratulate the MIT University for being pioneers in putting the online assessment system into place. And now we have the third speaker of the day, Jit Alalia. It's my privilege to introduce an entrepreneur of exceptional abilities. Jasjeet has an excellent academic record and 17 years of work experience. He is an alumni of the London Business School. He did his bachelor's from the University of Texas at Austin and majored in economics from there. He did the advanced management program from IIT Calcutta and the entrepreneur's master's program from MIT, USA. He's an expert in online assessments and examinations. He is the founder of Tag Scores and India Skills. He works with channel partners across the globe and has 2,500 assessors in multiple sectors and trades for online skill assessments. He's an expert on security and investigations and business automation. He was awarded by the Confederation of Indian Industries for the best idea that he contributed in skill development. He was also recognized by the Central Association of Private Security Industry as the most promising young leader in the security industry. He's in the process of authoring his first book on online assessments. He works globally with customers, has associates in most countries. He is widely traveled and a successful entrepreneur. He's a member of the Young Presidents Organization and the Entrepreneurs Organization. He's a member of several chambers of commerce in India and internationally. He has worked for multiple businesses in various parts of the world and is now focused on marketing Tag Scores as an international exams and assessments platform. May I, ladies and gentlemen, present Jit Alalia.
Thank you so much for a wonderful introduction, and thank you, Graham, and thank you, General Sharma, for leading the way. And really from the evolution of tag scores to practically how an institution has been using, I think for me personally, it was great learning, and I did, Graham, I did take some notes, especially about the evolution and how the UK pioneered the whole e-assessments journey in the world. Just give me a second. I'm just opening my screen. Just give me a second. Just a second, please. Can my screen be seen?
No.
No, Jasjeet, we can't see your screen.
No, we can't see.
Okay, just a second. I don't know what's happening. My security settings, just give me a second.
Can I just check if you have to do something behind the scenes?
Kamya, I'm sharing the presentation with you. If you can just share on the screen, please.
Kamya, have you got it?
Not yet, sir. He's yet to share.
Kamya, I've shared it, please.
Okay, sir.
You got it?
Yes, sir. I got it. Sharing.
Graham, you were the only one who did it without a hitch.
Yesterday, you had complained that the other day in the coordination meeting that my computer was giving a problem. So I changed my computer, and now some security issues is preventing me from sharing. Kamya, are you able to open?
It has come.
Yeah, okay, now we are there.
You can
Great.
see it now.
Apologies. So thank you so much for waiting. It's it was a tragedy that wasn't able to set it up immediately. But the way I'd like to start is, and I'd like to give a different context to the online examination. Correct, that due to the pandemic, we all are forced to move to a system and adopt a new system. But really, is there another angle where the educators were really requiring a system like this, but nobody had the courage to change, especially in the developing economies? So, Kamya, if you can just move to the next slide. So, just when I read each line, just tell me if it's true, or, just introspect whether it's true for your educational institution. This research on these questions have been done with over 10,000 educational institutions, and all the data supports uh, that there are certain challenges which technology intervention was required much earlier to solve, but in India we did not adopt to the level that we could have. Come here next, please. Teachers are spending more than 50% of their time on non-teaching activities. Teachers spend a lot of time to collect, organize, verify, and collate data. Especially, even companies like mine, which are very data obsessed, we are continuously telling our, team members to collect the data. And in educational institutions, this is a perennial problem. All educators, top management want data, and the teachers are the ones who need to manage the learning for the students. They need to get the data. They need to do all the follow-up and coordination. And really, if you look at it, they are ending up spending more than 50% of their time on non-teaching activities. Come here, next slide, please. Lot of time when we've spoken to teachers all across, they feel so bogged down with over-reporting. They say that examinations occur 3 times a year. We have other assessments. It come from the time of creating question papers to, preparing for the exams, to teaching the course, to then doing the examination, collection of papers. It's a whole process. And literally they are continuously doing things other than teaching, which is the first love, right? They want to go and teach and be in front of the students. So it has been extremely bogging to them. Plus, they carry piles of correction work home, so no family time. They leave early in the morning for school, they teach the entire day, then they go home and then they take a pile of books or answer sheets to mark at home. Then they spend a lot of time to coordinate between themselves, the parent, and the student. And they, despite working so hard, they're under the constant security of the scrutiny of the overzealous parents when their wards don't fare well in exams, or if there are behavioral issues. Constantly, parents are blaming the teachers. Then teachers are additionally on the mercy of their administrators, that if the results don't come or they are below par, it's the teachers who are responsible for it. The principals, because they have the overall burden of the welfare of the student, they sometimes all of them lack time and resources. Marking of scripts, time consuming. Teachers are accused of deliberately failing or giving poor marks or favoritism. The bias in India is, is a lot. Tons of paperwork to feed in the answers, to analyze, checking exam papers, poor marking. Graham mentioned inconsistent marking, delayed results, also delayed results. When our results get delayed or there's lack of time of analysis, the student who's at the center of everything doesn't end up gaining anything. Then we have the gifted or the prodigies in the class, especially the weaker people. Because our teachers are involved in so many activities that they're doing, they're unable to focus on the special need of every student. Teachers are unable to spend quality time on planning despite their giving their best. So because of all of this, come here next. Because of all of this, I realized very early on that there is a requirement of a system which can be positioned in the educational institutions where homeworks, quizzes, exams, everything could be done at one place and the results could be collated at a click of a button in real time, where parents are also given login access and they feel connected to the day-to-day learning of their ward. Come here, you can move next. You will not believe that the bias is the acquisition of bias is so high that it has led to legal cases accusing where students are accusing teachers and principals of falsely getting for sexual abuse, abetment of suicide, and so on and so forth. So our estimation says that the teachers teach less than 50% of the time, and they do like they're completely overworked. And teachers are the people, they are the heroes of the school who impact the reputation of the school. Next slide, please. So let's take a great example. I've given an overall structure. Now I'll give you a very practical example. This is from a top 10 school in India, ranked top 10. It's a case study. And I'm just going to take you through a typical examination cycle that goes on. So about 30 days prior to the exam, 2 or more teachers are asked to collate question papers, and they are told to create 2 sets each, and said, okay, please make between each set, create a 30 to 40% variation. After they create question sets, they submit it to the head of the department. So head of the department has a minimum of 4 sets. She picks up randomly 2 and she sends it to the reprographics team 15 to 18 days before the exam for printing. They come back and she puts it under lock and key and keeps the key with her. 2 days before the exam, the IT team, come here, we need to go back. 2 days before the exam, because they feel that, the whole legal cases with the bias and all were coming in, They said we will create a fictitious roll number for every student using a software and distribute to every student 2 days before so that the teacher does not know whose paper she is marking. Then on the day of the exam, at a centralized location like a staff room or a library, an exam team, which is including the academic coordinators and the subject coordinators, they all sit together and they hand over the question paper and the answer sheet to each of the invigilators. Come here next. The invigilators take them to the classroom. They distribute at the time. Students will put that fictitious roll number without their names. The teachers will collect, and remember, the fictitious roll numbers also have a problem because students sometimes put the wrong roll number, they confuse it with their original. So the teachers will collect them back. Teachers will bundle them, take them back to the examination room, submit the answer sheets to them, tally the absenteeisms. They will have to wait for 30 minutes when the examination sorters will bundle the answer sheets that they have to mark and give it to them. Each teacher will be given 10 to 15 days to mark, come back, and then go to the respective classes and take 1 or 2 periods of 40 minutes each with their class, distributing the answer sheets, then sitting with them and discussing the answers, which could involve at the end of it totaling errors and re-evaluation. After that is settled, she will need to enter in a software or in a register, which will together go, and a report card booklet will be made, which will be kept at usually at a centralized location, where every teacher will go and input the marks and remarks and wait eventually for the parent teacher day to submit. That is the complete cycle that happens in majority of the schools in India. The good news is that with tax scores, we can solve the whole problem in 5 steps in almost 5 minutes. We just need to start with filling the spreadsheets of the student details and create a batch and upload the relevant questions. Of course, it is good if you input, together you can input hundreds of questions and let the computer automate through Blueprint the complete question paper, but you can do it manually. Everybody gets to log on to a secure browser, the locked browser, or download an app which is on the Play Store and the apps. The teacher or the relevant administrator can schedule it on the system. And the beauty with scheduling is that you can even schedule assessment a year in advance for the complete term. So you don't need to spend time on creating question papers or scheduling anytime. Then you deliver the test and you get, when you deliver, of course, we use advanced artificial intelligence, identity management during proctoring, 360-degree view of the room, sound, object recognition, all of this. So most of the things that General Sharma shared in his presentation, with technology today, most of it can be solved and reduced so that only exceptions are managed where the confidence level is not met. All of this using AI and machine learning. Of course, it may not be accurate to 100% at part, but the system learns. And so the system becomes more intelligent with every use. And then based on this, you can get all kinds of detailed reports that you want. Strengths, areas of improvement, how did the batch do, how did the teachers do, absenteeism, all of it on a click of a button. Kamya? Kamya, can we go next, please?
Yes, Jit, you got 5 minutes more.
Kamya, can you go next? So like I said, all kinds of questions, whether it's multiple, come here, just play please. Whether it's multiple choice, objective, subjective. One of the things that was touched upon was, if things can be in an offline mode. So the answer to that is yes. The system allows to operate in an offline mode. So even if the light goes off or there is intermittent disconnection, the encrypted test will be on your browser or on your test, which will continue without interruption. So a lot of those things have been taken care, but of course, if there are power outages for a longer time, or internet disconnection, that could be a problem. Come here next. So again, like I said, batch creation, exam, login details as per schedule. Uh, it's very easy, click of a button. Come here next, please. Next, please. I've already explained validation, drawing tools. So one of the unique features is that it's a complete, it supports complete subjective examination. And also in terms of, doing things which needs drawing, etc. All of that can be done. It completely supports subjective marking with annotations, with scribing, partial marking. In addition, what we can also do on the system is blind marking and double blind marking so that re-evaluation is never an issue.
Jit, you there?
Sorry, I'm back. So complete automation is there in the system to make life of teachers extremely easy. Come here, next slide, please. So again, every data is encrypted and secured. It's hosted on AWS. It has auto scaling and it gives a complete portfolio. Graham was mentioned about psychometric that's already inbuilt into the system. And we've done over 1.2 million assessments in the last couple of months. Next, please. So Kamya, maybe we can go ahead and sorry, I can't control my thing. So yes. Yes. So like I said, in the software, our solution provides a complete student, tutor, parent portal, a complete portfolio journey, a question bank management, scheduling of lesson plans, assessments, quiz, unit terms, marking, results, progress, secured certification, all in the same, integrated in the same platform. So that it's a one top, you don't have to go to 10 different places to do different things. Come here next. And most importantly, we can create results on the click of a button. Come here, aage. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide. So identity management, online proctoring, assessment design. Literally, you can do whatever you want in the platform or the way you could go. The mobile app is extremely robust. It helps you capture practical assessments and vivas and interviews. So which provides step by step. So in cases of skills or apprenticeship or practicals, you can literally go step by step and capture the complete process and mark at each step. This works both online and offline. If we do it in an offline mode, it will sync automatically online. So again, the benefits of the system reduce the follow-up and coordination. Teachers can focus on improving the performance of the student. So that is the key. And also collaborate with the parents in a seamless manner so that everybody is on the same page. Kamya, next. Kamya, next. Go next. Go to a slide. Next. So this is how our dashboard looks like. Come back to the dashboard. That's, Kamya, go back to the dashboard. So this is how the system looks like. It looks like every different module. You can see all the activity reports. You can manage all the candidates. You can pause the test from here, do everything during remote proctoring. Kamya, next. So that's how a typical report card would look like. Kamya, can you go back? Strengths, weaknesses. There's a whole assessment journey at the bottom, which you can click and go to and refer to the journey. And in a one screenshot, you can see the completely how the journey of the student has been. Kamya, next. So again, there is a whole question bank, collaborative authoring where authors can input the questions, and then a second an authority who can authorize each question into the question bank. So using Blueprint, you can automate the whole question making process as well. Kamya, next. So this is how you schedule a test. When you schedule, like I said, you can schedule for the whole year ahead. And whether it's whatever the functionalities of the test you want, you input in this text scheduling. And that's the way, whether it's, you want a ID validation, you want feedback, whether you want, fixed time question, all of those parameters can be set here. Next, please. Next. That's how a typical test screen looks like. Kamya, go back. On the test screen. The interesting thing is, if you see language, we have connected here to APIs which auto translate. So if there is a question here which is in English, but your native language is actually Hindi, you can just go to Hindi and that will give you a live translation. Kamya, next. So that's a typical strength and weakness chart, or strength or areas of improvement that one can see here. Next, please. That's a report card which will give you right to the question on, question or topic or module of everything, of the whole assessment. Next, please. Next. Thank you so much. That's all I wanted to share. Sorry, I didn't have the control on my screen. Otherwise, it would have been a lot easier. Thank you so much. And I'm happy for any questions after this.
Yeah, okay. Jasjit, since you were speaking last, I have a question which has come up. There's a question that a teacher is asking. You mentioned that you can prepare question papers with greater ease. They would like you to explain as to how the question banks are made and how a question paper can be set easily. That's one of the questions. I think, Jasjit, you should answer that.
I think in our system, what we've done is we have two mechanisms to upload, bulk upload the questions, right? So if you have question papers that are already in Word file or PDF or in a CSV file, we can just upload millions of questions at a click of a button. So really, that's not a problem. We have parsers inbuilt in the system. All that is required is that they are put in a certain format, and at a click of the button, millions of questions can be uploaded.
All right, thank you. I have another question that's come up. I think it's referring to General V.K. Sharma. It says, how easy or difficult to shift from pen and paper exams to online exams? And what challenges did you face as the Vice Chancellor of the MIT University with your faculty and students?
Right. The main challenge was it was happening for the first time. So the faculty members were apprehensive, the students were apprehensive, how effective it will be, how well it can be organized. And for that, we had given it a good thought. The establishment of that Student Welfare and Support Committee was a great asset. And also the mock test, which was conducted for all students, that gave a lot of confidence to the students as well as faculty members. Yes, that it is something which is doable, and the tensions were much reduced. And there was a gap between conduct of the mock test and the actual test of about 3 to 4 days, so that any difficulties that the student faced could be resolved. And of course, once it started, then there was no issue at all.
All right, thank you. Graham, there are two questions for you. One, we'd asked you to narrate your experiences of the online marking system that you introduced in Zimbabwe. And the other is that locking of devices, tracking strange IP addresses, this may be permissible in India, but does it create GDPR issues in Europe and the United Kingdom?
Thank you, Pawan. The Zimbabwe exercise was implementation of the marking system, and it was a very creative exercise because it required the change management in the ZimSec organization in the first place, but also we had some interesting times in setting up the infrastructure. We solved that by putting the server in the back of a truck and driving it across country to the place where we were going to be doing the marking, collecting all the data on the server, and then driving it back to the institute where the administration was taking place. And it demonstrated that it can be done even in the most difficult of circumstances, but also with the great ingenuity and creativity of the people who are actually implementing it. So it was an interesting project.